Today's lesson is going to be covering what's called finding the inverses of a function. And so the learning targets today is being able to find the inverse, but also being able to state the domain and range of the inverse function. So first off, let's take a look at what the inverse of a function is. It says, given any ordered pair x comma y, the inverse of it is y comma x. And so we just simply flip the coordinate pairs, and that becomes the inverse. And so if you look at mapping notation, whatever your inputs now are become the outputs, and whatever your outputs now become the inputs. The notation we have here is this notation here where you see the little f and the superscript -1 power, and then you see that function notation right next to it. But if you see that f raised to the -1 power like that, that represents finding the inverse. So if to find the inverse, we simply just switch the ordered pairs. X becomes y, y becomes x. Then the domain of the original function is now going to be the range of the inverse. And the range of the original function is now going to be the domain of the inverse. So whatever the domain and range are of your original function, to find the inverse, you just simply flip those. So if you look at the example below, here we have a list of points, x comma y. So if I wanted to simply find the inverse of this relation, notice all we do is just flip those points around. And then to determine whether it's a function or not, then we look at repeated x values, or we possibly look at the graph and do vertical line test, whatever that might be. So let's take a look at graphing an inverse here. So if I'm given the function f of x equals -2x plus 3, and I wanted to graph the inverse, the first step is let's get a graph of what the actual original function looks like. And to do that, I'm going to set up a list of points. And the points are x comma y. And I'm going to just choose some points to plot. I want to choose some points in the negative direction, so I want to choose -2, maybe -1, 0, 1, and 2. Let's choose these 5 points. If I plug in, and again, this is for f of x, but if I plug in -2 in for x here, looks like I get -2 times -2, which is +4, plus 3 gives me 7. If I plug in -1 in for f of x, looks like I get +5. If I plug in 0, I get 3. If I plug in 1, I get 1. And if I plug in 2, I get -1. So let's plot those points. -2, 7 is way up here. -1, 5, 0, 3, 1, 1, and 2, -1. So this is what the graph of f of x looks like in red. And so now if I wanted to find the graph of f inverse, or the inverse of f, to graph this, we just simply switched those ordered pairs. And so all the y values now become the x values, so I'm just going to list those out. So it'd be 7, 5, 3, 1, -1, and then the x values now become the y values for the inverse. So if I take that first column and now write it in this column, it'd be -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And so if I plot those points now, 7, -2, 5, -1, 3, 0, 1, 1, and -1, 2. This would be the sketch of what f inverse looks like. And I want you to notice something, that the inverses actually have some symmetric qualities to it. In fact, if you look at these two functions as a compared, there is a line of symmetry that we can sketch, that if you were to fold these two graphs up, that they'd match up equivalent to each other. And that line of symmetry is actually the y equals x line. In fact, that's a property that any inverse is always symmetric about the y equals x line. And we're talking symmetric with its original function. So that's something you want to note down. When we looked at finding whether a relation was a function or not, looking at the graph, remember we used what's called the vertical line test. And again, that was just to determine whether it's a function or not. And so if we look at these four examples, notice in the first case I hit twice, so we would consider this not to be a function. In the next case, a circle. Notice wherever we place that vertical line in that circle, it hits more than once, so that would be again another no. In the third one down there, if I place a vertical line anywhere throughout this graph, it only hits once, and so therefore this would be a yes. And then the last one, even if you hit a vertical line, even if you're questioning right there where those 2 points, it does pass through that open circle there, but then hits only once on that closed circle there. So even if I place a vertical line throughout this entire graph, it actually hits only in one place only, and so that would be a yes. So we use the vertical line test to determine whether a relation is a function graphically, but we use what's called the horizontal line test to determine whether a function actually has an inverse. And so if we look at here, notice before I would even start to possibly finding that inverse algebraically, which we'll see some steps here in the next slide, I would first want to see if it actually has an inverse. And so if I place my horizontal line test, it looks like it hits twice, and it's similar to the vertical line test that if it hits only more than once, then it would be no. This would not have an inverse. And again, so we use the vertical line test to determine whether it's a function or not, but the horizontal line test to determine whether a function has an inverse or not. And when we get to solving these algebraically, or actually finding these algebraically, there are certain steps we want to follow. If it's written in function notation, so for example, f of x equals something, then the very first step you need to do is set the equation equal to y. So that's the very first step. For inverses, we notice that the x and y pairs switch. X becomes y, y becomes x. So in the second step, what we want to do is actually switch the variables. So if it was really y equals something, then it's going to be x equals something in terms of y. The third step and final step is solve for y and get it by itself. So make sure you write these 3 steps down somewhere in your notes. Make sure you title it Steps to Finding the Inverse of a Function, because we're going to be going over several examples on the rest of the lesson here. So taking a look at that one example we did by graphing at negative 2x plus 3, let's see if it can actually find the equation of this inverse by following those 3 steps. So the first step, notice it's written in function notation, so the first step would be set it equal to y. So we're going to, instead of f of x equals negative 2x plus 3, it's going to be y equals negative 2x plus 3. The second step was switch the variables. That means x becomes y and y becomes x. And so if I flip-flop the variables there, it's going to read x equals negative 2y plus 3. The third and final step was solve for y, get it by itself. And so if I take this equation and try to isolate the y by itself, the very first step I would do is subtract that 3 to both sides. We can't collect them on the left side, so it's just going to read x minus 3 equals negative 2y. And to get y by itself, since it's negative 2 times y, I would want to get rid of it by dividing by a negative 2 to both sides. And so lastly, I get y equals x minus 3 all over negative 2. Or, if you split this up individually, x over negative 2 is the same as negative 1/2 x. And negative 3 over negative 2 is positive 3 over 2. So you could either write it like x minus 3 all over negative 2, or you can put it back into slope-intercept form if you wanted to. But know that this represents the inverse of the function. And that would be my final answer. So let's take a look at a couple more here together before I have you guys try one. So first step would be setting it equal to y. So it's going to be y equals x minus 1 over 2. Second step would be flipping the variables. So it's going to be x equals y minus 1 to all over 2. And the third and final step would be solving that for y. Notice in this case we'd want to first get rid of that 2 on the bottom. So to get rid of it, we'd multiply 2 to both sides. So now it reads 2x equals y minus 1. And then to get y by itself, we'd simply add 1 to both sides. And so we get y equals 2x, looks like plus 1, which then would be our inverse. So 2x plus 1 is the inverse of that function in A. So if I tried B now, again, set it equal to y, flip the variables, and I'll solve for y here. So solving for y here, getting rid of that 5 by subtracting it. And then getting rid of that negative 2 by dividing both sides. And so we get y equals x minus 5 over negative 2. That would be our inverse. So take a moment and see if you can try these two on your own, and we'll go over these here in a few seconds. Good luck. So on the first one, if I follow these steps, y equals 3x minus 5, x equals 3y minus 5, and try to solve for y here, I would add 5. And then to get rid of that 3, I would divide by 3 to both sides. And so we get the inverse being x plus 5 all over 3, and that would be our final answer there. So on the next one, if I set it equal to y, switch the variables, and try to solve for y here, I would subtract 1 first. And notice we have 1/2 y that we want to get rid of. So if I want to get rid of 1/2, I could divide by 1/2, which is the same as multiplying by 2. But remember, when you do that on the left side, we have to use that parentheses because that 2 is going to affect both terms on that left side. And so if I distribute that through, it'd be 2x minus 1 equals y. So our final answer for the inverse here would be 2x minus 1. So let's take a look at finding inverses of some non-linear type functions. So here we have f of x equals x squared, and f of x equals the square root of x minus 1. So if I follow my 3 steps, first step setting equal to y, second step flipping the variables. In this stage, if I want to solve for y to get rid of the square part, we'd have to take the square root to both sides. Now remember, when you take the square root of both sides, that we have to remember that not only the positive value squared is positive x, but also if I square negative x, that's going to be positive x. So I have to remember a little plus or minus in front there. But that would end up being the inverse of this function. And so in the next one, if I set equal to y, switch the variables, and try to solve for y here. To get rid of a square root, we would have to square both sides. And so on the left side, what we're left with is just x squared. On the right side, if I square that, it becomes y minus 1. And lastly, to get y by itself, I would add 1 to both sides. And so I get y equals x squared plus 1. So the inverse would be x squared plus 1 here. So take a moment, practice some of the problems on Canvas there. Don't forget to check the key as you're going. And there is a couple of the unique ones that we just took a look at. So if you notice number 6, there's a squared one, there's a square root one. Anytime you're getting rid of a cube, you're just taking the cube root to both sides. If you're trying to get rid of a cube root, well then you would cube both sides. So try your best on those 4, but for the rest of them, they're all those linear types where you should be able to come up with an answer pretty quickly. Down on the bottom, practice ones, those are just simply a yes or no question just to determine whether the inverse is also a function. So that's when we do what's called the horizontal line test. So if it hits more than once, we would say no on those problems. So try your best on the practice, and don't forget to submit the homework quiz before the end of the day, and have a great rest of your day.